The Omaha Streetcar Authority welcomes you to our preliminary design public open house. We're glad you're here and we're excited to share more information about this transformational project for Omaha. Over the last decade, multiple planning and transportation studies have made it clear that the streetcar is the best solution for adding density and vibrancy to our urban core. Omaha's urban core strategic plan said it best. Cities never stand still. They are either growing and moving forward, or they are declining and falling behind. Omaha is running out of room. In fact, we'll be out of room by 2050. With the availability of undeveloped areas on the suburban fringe continuing to shrink, we will soon be facing increasing service and maintenance costs with a fixed, declining tax base. Growth will need to come from redevelopment, revitalization, and growing up, not out. The urban core is positioned to lead this change. One problem that's complicating this change is that over the last 60 years in downtown Omaha, we've traded jobs for parking. Between 1963 and 2014, we lost over 21,000 jobs, but added more than 12,000 parking stalls. To help visualize this change, here you can see the land devoted to parking in the urban core in 1963 compared to 2014. Today, nearly 50% of our urban core is dedicated to parking, and nearly half of those spaces are vacant at any given time. Market studies indicate that Omaha's urban core can attract 30,000 jobs and 30,000 residents over the next 30 years. But would require an additional 50,000 parking stalls under current parking ratios. These stalls would cost $1.5 billion to construct, require millions of dollars a year in public subsidies, and cover 40 square blocks of land with 6-story garages that pay virtually nothing in property taxes. This would choke off the development of an average of $50 million in projects per block and result in the loss of $2 billion in potential development and its related tax revenue. Clearly, something must change, or this projected growth won't fit. Studies have shown that cities that have focused on jobs and transit in their urban cores have outperformed those that have focused on parking. In researching cities across the country, Denver caught our eye. Here is a view of their downtown in 1976, when parking was the priority, versus today when jobs are prioritized. Currently, Denver's downtown has virtually the same number of stalls as Omaha's, but supports 4.5 times as many jobs. A streetcar helps lessen our need for parking and drives development by better utilizing existing parking, reducing the number of parking stalls needed for new projects, freeing up underutilized parking and property for more new development, and creating opportunities for more affordable housing. We're also learning from other cities who have developed streetcars. 3 stand out as good examples for Omaha to follow. Portland, Oregon's initial streetcar investment of $103 million has induced billions of dollars of private investment and millions of square feet of development. Kansas City, Missouri has an average daily ridership of 5,800 people and has produced $1.8 billion in development along the streetcar line. Milwaukee, Wisconsin's downtown line has seen over $3.5 billion worth of development in the last decade, with another $2.5 billion currently proposed or under construction. The streetcar is Omaha's solution for growing our tax base, supporting density, and elevating our urban core. In short, studies show that streetcars connect people and places, encourage economic development, enhance transit opportunities, develop a variety of new housing in the area, and can help our city attract and retain talent. So what does a modern streetcar and revitalized urban core look like? Here's an example of what high-density development along the route could look like, full of commercial, retail, and residential buildings. We've had conversations with property owners along the proposed route who have said that adding a streetcar would cause them to double the size of their development projects, from 3 to 4 stories to at least 8. The streetcar could also exist in harmony with dedicated bike lanes and pedestrian facilities. This is the type of vibrancy and activity a streetcar can bring to the heart of Omaha. In short, the streetcar is an infrastructure investment that spurs economic development. Think of it like Exarban Village, where the city financed the initial infrastructure, or a suburban SID, where the developer uses tax-free municipal bonds to pay for the infrastructure. In both cases, the initial investment is paid back through increased tax revenue from the new development that is created. In these examples, because no general tax dollars were used, no public vote was required, like the streetcar project. It's been proven that the permanency of the streetcar triggers bigger and more valuable investments and increased commercial property values. This has been proven in virtually every city across the United States that has built a modern streetcar system. In Omaha, the streetcar pays for itself through new economic development and enhancing the value of what already exists along the route, an increase that would not otherwise occur but for the construction of a streetcar. It's important to remember that streetcar funding only exists if we build a streetcar. To understand how the financing of the streetcar will work, let's first consider the example of an undeveloped or underutilized parcel within the urban core. If nothing is done, property tax revenue remains relatively stagnant with an occasional small increase. Yet, at the same time, upkeep and maintenance of our infrastructure continues to increase. If that property is redeveloped, its value increases substantially, yielding much higher tax revenue. This tax increment financing method, often referred to as TIF, allows for developers to offset certain qualified project expenses and associated publicly accessible improvements. After 15 years, the increased tax base returns to the various taxing entities. The coupling of new development with a modern streetcar results in an even greater property value, which in turn generates more tax revenue. The additional tax increment generated by the streetcar is the revenue being used to fund the construction. After 15 years, an even greater tax base is returned to property taxing entities. It's important to note that the additional tax increment used for the streetcar comes from taxes paid by income-producing new or redeveloped commercial and multifamily properties. This does not include existing single-family homes, condominiums, and residential buildings with 4 or fewer units. The streetcar project includes tracks, electrical systems, vehicles, stops, utility relocations, street repairs, a maintenance facility, and professional services. A conservative estimate is that a minimum of $3.2 billion worth of development will occur within the streetcar district over the next 15 years. An independent analysis determined that if only 60% of the projected new development occurred, it would yield $608 million. This exceeds the dollar amount needed to retire streetcar construction bonds. Assuming the entire $3.2 billion in development occurred, it would likely generate roughly $1 billion in TIF revenue. This additional $400 million in TIF would be used for future projects like affordable housing, bikeways, or even streetcar extensions. In short, the streetcar pays for itself. There will be no citywide property tax rate increase needed to pay for the streetcar, no money diverted from other city projects to pay for the streetcar, no money used from property outside the streetcar corridor, and no money used from existing single-family homes, condos, and residential buildings with 4 or fewer units. Only revenue from new or redeveloped income-producing commercial and multifamily properties within the corridor, and only people who benefit from the streetcar will pay for the streetcar. Omaha's streetcar route will follow a 3-mile loop from the Omaha riverfront near the CHI Health Center, south to Farnham Street, and then west to 42nd Street. The initial route connects 13 separate districts and destinations including major medical facilities, universities, businesses, and cultural, sports, and entertainment amenities. The streetcar is expected to feature 22 station stops. Exact locations are being determined as part of this preliminary design phase. So what's next? The project team is finishing up the preliminary design phase. Over the next 12 months, our experts will determine the streetcar vehicle type, complete final design, and coordinate with utilities. While mainline construction is not expected to begin until 2024, construction activities related to utility relocations could begin later this year. Following testing and operations, we look forward to welcoming passengers on board sometime in 2026. As the Urban Core Strategic Plan states, to reach our potential, Omaha must reaffirm and reinforce the Urban Core's historic role as the cultural, entertainment, residential, and employment heart of the region. The streetcar gets us on track to strengthen this cornerstone of our city. Connect with us to learn more about the streetcar project and stay up to date on the latest developments. Visit our website at omahastreetcar.org to sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media. If you have questions or concerns, we invite you to fill out a comment form or speak with one of our project representatives. You can also submit questions and comments through the project website or call our information line at 402-300-3180 to speak with someone. Future public meetings are planned to occur during final design and prior to construction. Thank you for attending tonight's open house and viewing this presentation. We look forward to answering your questions and visiting with you at the information stations.